All right, what's up, everybody? The Detroit Lions News Podcast. We're here to talk about everything Detroit Lions because, man, there was a game last Thursday. Was it really a game? Probably not. One of the most, like I said after the game, I said, what a sloppiest game I've ever seen in my entire life. I have to be honest. And I don't know if you might have seen this, James, but before we came into the whole game, I did the whole most approve and most excited to watch for, and you did it too. But I didn't add in the video because I asked you too late. But I'll ask you this week earlier than I did. But I had the Whiteside, Hassaneen, Keith Abney, Robichaud. He's dead. Tyree West. He's not.
Yeah.
Robichaud's not really dead. He just has
He
has a broken leg or something.
Yeah, I think he got it.
Tyree West, he didn't do nothing, so it is what it is. Sometimes you strike out. And then the most approved, I had Levi, Wingo, Peyton Turner, Dan Jackson, Dominic Lovett. So all in all, like I think I nailed the players with the most players to watch. But the rest of it, no. I was I don't know, man. I think the most impressive player that I thought was impressive was Keith Abney. I thought Keith Abney was really impressive, especially the way he was tackling. Jacob Saylors, I've never been a big Jacob Saylors fan, mainly because I don't buy the hype that you see, like, oh, he's from the UFL and, this guy's going to be great. Because how many of these guys that we thought is going to be great that's a UFL guy,
Right.
So, I mean, Jake Bates was the first one I was like, whoa. But so is Brandon Aubrey. So maybe the kickers are different than UFL, XFL, or whatever the hell it's called, the American, whatever. They have so many different leagues now. It's crazy. But I think they combined one of them.
The Arena League.
The Arena League. I remember that. John Bon Jovi owned the team, so that was fun. What were you impressed about the game against the Bengals?
Yeah, you know what? I'll make a quick comment on Jacob Saylors just because you brought him up. I really am, especially on kick return, because that was really his big role last year. But he surprised me a little bit. He had some more bursts than I remember. I don't know if maybe it's just the first game and he's like 100% healthy, but he kind of looks, at least right now, like he has a decent chance to be that, especially with Isaiah Pacheco still out right now. So I think he did a decent job. But yeah, the guys that you mentioned, really all the young guys, there were some really young guys that stepped up. I mean, Abney, as you said, Hassaneen might have been the MVP of the game with his sack and then strip sack. Skylar Gil Howard, I think, really had a impressive kind of standout performance and really showcased, I think, a lot of why the Lions picked him with his athleticism and speed. Dan Campbell seemed to note him quite a bit in the following days after that game. The defense in general, especially going up against Joe Burrow. There was the other guy, O'Neal, is it? I should know his name. He had an unbelievable rep where he went around the corner and really hit Joe Burrow. So to go up against that level of talent for the backups, I think there probably were a number of guys that stepped up. Abney, as we talked about, had that impressive rep where he looked like he was covering one player and then he kind of spinned around and went full-fledged into the flats where he made a big tackle, and had a couple of other plays really as well. So there were a number of good performances, and it seemed like probably most importantly, more than anything, there didn't really seem to be any huge injuries or anything. I think Rakestraw was probably the big scare, but then turned out he's good to go and has been at practice since then. So I think all in all, for a preseason game where they only had not that many players, key players play. I guess one guy I should mention too is Blake Miller, probably the biggest name that played. Thought he, and I posted this on my X feed, section 444 Lions. I'm definitely not an offensive line analyst or a guy that should be really even commenting on how someone looked, but it seemed to me like I thought he looked pretty impressive for just his first game out there. And I know Dan Campbell seemed to think he was, I know he didn't want to comment on it initially after a game just because there's so much going on. And I think that was maybe one of my big takeaways too is, wow, is there, and it's not some shocking thing, but when you're really trying to evaluate something, because that's the preseason, you truly don't really care if the team's winning or losing. I mean, I guess some people do, as we talked about before the show. Some people freak out about it, but for the most part, you're kind of just evaluating individual performances. And it's like, man, what do you even watch during a game? Because it's just there's 90 different things going on. And I know Dan Campbell's he talked about that a lot after the game. It's hard to really comment on anything when there's 12, 11 guys per, matchups at once. But I thought in the trenches are probably the biggest part of that, where it's hard to really get a great sense of what happened. But I thought Blake Miller for day one out there in a game did look pretty solid. So, it was interesting. It's kind of, you get really excited about it. And then by like the second quarter, you realize it's preseason, and, you mentioned how sloppy it was. I mean, it was like huge downpour during the game. Guys were, obviously Tesla had the 2 plays where he couldn't make the catch, but there were players just fumbling the ball without anyone touching them because it was that kind of rain. So kind of tough to evaluate a lot of things in that sense when the weather impacts things that much.
Yeah, I thought the weather didn't help anything. I did think Luke Altmyer played a pretty good game for the most part, especially with the rain. I mean, this was his first start as an NFL pro. I mean, albeit preseason. I mean, he's going to have a little bit of hiccups here and there, but I thought for the most part, I mean, him and Dobbs came in the game, and I thought Altmyer looked a little bit better than Dobbs, albeit Dobbs has been there for like a short break, like a little cup of coffee, as you would say.
Yeah, got signed like that week. But I agree. I think Luke Altmyer honestly has shown a good amount, and especially in the conversation of backup quarterback, where it's a very fine line, because you want someone that if you need your quarterback for 3 to 4 games, he's out, and you're a playoff team, those games are just as important as any other game. But at the same time, if you have someone like Luke Altmyer, who maybe he should have got drafted in the 6th or 7th round or something like that, and if he has continues to develop and has a strong preseason, that is maybe the risk is okay, maybe Dobbs is a little bit more NFL game ready just because he has a bunch of starts in the NFL, but you don't keep Luke Altmyer, to someone else pick him up. So I mean, that's going to be an interesting battle throughout the rest of camp.
I could see what Dan Campbell is saying about this being the deepest roster, because I go down the line, I was trying to craft together a 53-man roster or whatever, and there's 2 places where I find a little bit of give and take, or 3 places actually. The quarterback position, do you keep the veteran or do you keep Luke Altmyer? And then you go to the cornerback position. I mentioned this. I did a video on this on our YouTube page. But you look at this cornerback room, you might only keep 6 players. You're going to keep DJ Reed. Rocky Yassin, I think, is going to be on here. Okay. Whiteside, I think with his play, he's going to be on here. That's 3. And then you get the 4th, Roger McCreary and Keith Abney. That's 5. So is it Ennis Rakestraw or is it Khalil Dorsey? And that's kind of the toss-up that I have, to be honest, is when you look at like how this room breaks down and, who's going to be out and who's going to be in and all that jazz. Like this cornerback room is chintzy. And then you got the wide receiver room. Like, how many wide receivers do you want to keep? And then we all know Brad Holmes likes to, after he cuts down, he likes to cut down over 53. So there might be a player that we're not even thinking of that might be getting cut. I think Devin White looked pretty good. If you go and you look at the statistics, I mean, like, I thought Devin White looked good. I thought, for the most part, Ennis Rakestraw looked pretty good. But I don't know, man. He's really just, he cannot stay healthy. Like that. I mean, I know it's preseason and all that stuff, but like
he got smoked by who was that on? I mean, it was two different times. One, it was by I'm forgetting who the Lions player was, and then he got crushed by kind of blindsided by someone else. That like really did not. I thought he like separated his shoulder or something when that first happened, or I don't know what. That did not look good when he was on the ground.
Yeah, it was one of those things, and but I say that, and then it's Rakestraw. If you look at his defensive snaps, like he had 5 total tackles, 2 solo. He had a pass to break up. Okay, cool. I think the guy who really impressed me, and you mentioned him, and I mentioned him as a player I was watching, was Hassaneen. I mean, 4 tackles, 3 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Like, I don't care if it's preseason. If you can get after the passer, like that would help. Eventually, I think a guy like DJ Wanham's going to start, or Derek Moore is going to start, right? But if this guy is like your depth, like okay, when we have the Detroit Lions had depth like that as an edge rusher, where they can come off and they could play, they could play the run and the pass. I think that's been the major bugaboo because we talked about it for eons. I mean, with this team. Al-Quadri Muhammad, as great as he was rushing a passer last year, terrible against the run. I think a Derek Moore, I think a DJ Wanham, I think a Hassaneen could be better than anything that Al-Quadri Muhammad did. And I do want to mention this because I think this is the most important story of this podcast. Marcus Davenport will not be a Detroit Lion.
Oh wow, yeah.
He will be joining the Hammond Bears. So there you go.
With they have Deo now and Marcus Davenport.
Are they ever going to lose? Like, are they going to go 16-0? That's the question.
That's hilarious. His last 3 teams now are the Vikings, Lions, and
Vikings,
Bears.
Lions, Bears.
Yeah.
He just has to go to the Packers next time. That's the key right there.
Like, yeah.
That's all we care about.
But you brought up a couple interesting things. The first thing, the corner room, I think they might. Can you pull that graphic up again with all the corners? I saw a couple 53-man roster projections where I think the only one, there are 2 guys. The 2 guys that were cut on this list were Brown and Cooper Jr. Everyone else from all these roster projections that I've seen are guys that are making the team, and I feel like that makes sense. And a couple of them maybe are like Khalil Dorsey could be more of just a special teams guy, but he's a great special teams player. So Nick Whiteside was maybe someone coming into the offseason that you didn't think was someone that could seriously compete for a 53-man roster spot, but he might be one of the standouts so far of this entire camp. So a lot of these guys, I think, are proving their worth defensively. And Roger McCreary was another one where it was pretty jarring, especially for me as someone that I'm like, yeah, all offseason, I think he's going to be the starter. And he was out there late in the 4th quarter. That's one thing I always keep my eye out on preseason games is who's out there with like 5 minutes left, taking a hit or making a play, because that's someone that could be on the chopping block on the roster. Because if you're just someone that is not even an afterthought, or to get your spots locked up, or they don't need to see you out there of what you can do, because I feel like those are the 2 scenarios where you're fighting for, if you're out there that late, you're either fighting for a spot, or the team's just trying to find out more about you because they don't know certain things. So it was interesting that Roger McCreary was out there. But at the same time, I thought he actually had a really good game. Now, part of that is clearly Christian Izien, I think, has a different role than, that was something that people were all speculating on, where what are all these pieces that they picked up going to fit in where? I thought, and a lot of people thought, maybe Izien would be more of a safety, but they're using him as kind of the starting nickel and having him really close to the line of scrimmage as being a versatile guy that can cover, can tackle, can fill a lot of gaps for the team. And I think he's, especially as someone that when he signed with the Lions, he was, the most interesting thing about him was his versatility, and he was kind of like a hybrid player. So I think putting him in that role where he's closer to the ball and closer to the action is a really exciting one. And then we saw the safeties out there. Chuck Clark, who has gotten a lot of talk. I think he certainly looks like someone that is in line to be a starter on week 1. So this, you mentioned the question, are we underestimating the defensive backs? We'll see. I know one thing, though. I'll end it on this. All the clips that we see in Lions training camp of like JAMO or St. Brown or Gibbs making a play, like Lions fans just absolutely crush the linebackers or corners or whoever on our team that St. Brown goes up and makes like a one-handed incredible play, or JAMO runs like 65 miles an hour over the middle and catches it, and DJ Reed's like a half step behind, and it's, oh, what a bum. Like Derek Barnes stinks. Jahmyr Gibbs caught a touchdown. It's like, guys, these are like amazing players. I don't know what to tell you.
My favorite thing about training camp is there's people that are going to be like, our receivers are so good. We have 2 top 10 receivers, right?
The best skill position in the
and
NFL.
then you hear on the same token, your corner's getting burnt by these guys. Like, okay, if they're burning your cornerbacks, they're probably burning the league too. Okay.
Yeah.
Like JAMO had 1,000 yards, St. Brown had 1,000 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs is a multi-purpose back who's, he's the top paid running back in the league for a reason. So for any of these people to say, oh, why is he getting burnt? Guys, he's going against JAMO, okay?
Like
JAMO,
DJ Reed had like pretty good, actually, I think really good coverage, like 30 yards downfield on like just a one-on-one drill, which a lot of these things, and I've heard beat writers talk about it too. It's in the defensive line versus offensive line one-on-one, where it's just all this space. Like that one is so heavily favored towards the defensive line to be able to like quote unquote win the rep or whatever. And then, yeah, you're covering like JAMO or St. Brown in a one-on-one drill where they have the whole field basically to do whatever they want. And this clip was DJ Reed was like really hightailing it, like right there with St. Brown. And then because they're time, like it's basically what makes Jared Goff and St. Brown so great, that the ball just like basically teleports to St. Brown's back shoulder, and he like turns at the last second and jumps up in the air and catches it. And like 95% of the comments in the post are like just crushing DJ Reed for not making the play or whatever. It's like, man, like these guys, they gotta like it. They can't like it anytime these wide receivers or anyone does something that it makes them look terrible. But man, it's got to be amazing practice day to day being able to go against this skill position group and Jared Goff, because what a tough challenge, especially like I said in some of these drills where it's here, cover JAMO, you have the entire field to operate.
It just doesn't seem good, but there is some news that came out of. They actually had me and James were deliberating. Conference? Yeah, they had the press conference. This is the injury updates on some key players for the Detroit Lions. Let me play it.
Expect Jameson Williams and Nick Whiteside to be out there today. I don't expect either one of them to be out there.
Can you hear it?
Yep. A little light.
Tell us what Jameson is dealing with and Whiteside.
He's got a little shoulder. He's good to go though. Whiteside's got soft tissue.
So he said
he'll be all right though. I think. I don't think anything. These aren't serious.
He said they aren't serious. So I'm guessing.
What JAMO has a shoulder. Is that what that was?
Okay. So if in case you're missing it, like it was really soft in terms of what he was saying, but basically what he was saying was, where's my thing? God dang. Basically what he was saying was Jameson Williams has a minor shoulder injury, and Nick Whiteside has a mild hamstring strain. Nothing is serious. Neither is serious. So that's good. And then James is probably going to wonder this, because I think this is something that James probably wanted to know. Campbell said a significant number of starters will play against Washington.
Wow.
but not everyone, and declined specifics at that point. He said, not everybody will play. We are going to play a significant amount of starters. That's my plan right now. Could it change?
I like it.
He didn't give many details, but whatever that means, I think they're going to play the guys. So I don't know. I don't really know what that means, but I mean, I imagine a Penei Sewell really doesn't have to play. I imagine a Aiden Hutchinson maybe doesn't have to play. I imagine. I don't know if they would send Jared Goff out there. I mean,
I feel like Goff's gonna play.
is he?
I feel like, but maybe not.
Yeah, it's interesting because everyone always cry over the starters. Should they play in the preseason? Should they not play in the preseason? And like I hear so many different views on it from like NFL players. Like there's some NFL players that are like, yeah, like it means nothing. Like this stupid preseason means nothing. It's all vanilla, like whatever. And then there's some are like, I want to go out there and hit someone. Like it's like, okay, we're not. I don't know where we're getting, but you know, you talk to people like. I mean, if you ask Brad Holmes right now, he'd probably say, please, I don't want to play any of the starters because I don't want to risk any injury. You know, like I felt like the Bengals last week when Joe Burrow got sacked by Hassaneen, they were probably praying to the whatever God they worship. Please make him get up. Like,
for sure.
It's
yeah,
like,
I mean,
oh man,
it's the balance that Dan Campbell's always talked about. He went harder in practice these last couple of years because they did joint practices, and now, and I can attest to it at least a little bit, being at one of the training camp practices. I think most people have said it. It's definitely a little bit toned down so far, and there hasn't been any, knock on wood, but they've been pretty healthy so far. And I think you have to, if that's the approach you're going to take, and you don't have to do anything crazy. I mean, even if it's a quarter or a drive or three or whatever it's going to be, just getting there, because as you mentioned, it is all vanilla. And as far as the performance and how anyone actually does, I don't think it matters at all. But just getting out there and getting a real rep against someone else in a real game, it's hard to replicate that, I think. And you can do it pretty well, especially in a controlled environment with the practices against the joint practices. But if you're not going to do that, I think you got to put them out there at least a little bit. And hey, I'm looking at my feed right now, and it's saying a significant amount of starters playing. A couple other things, I tweeted about this a lot today with Tate Ratledge, because a lot got made the other day about him taking center reps. Yep. A couple reports here. Mike Payton from A to Z saying Campbell confirms Ratledge getting center snaps yesterday was just kind of a tire kicking thing. And then Nolan Bianchi saying Dan Campbell on Tate Ratledge taking center snaps yesterday. Quote, one way or another, he's going to have to be able to help us there if it comes down to that, end quote. And then Nolan says he probably won't get any center reps tonight. Juice Scruggs and Seth McLaughlin will split the first team reps. So, I mean, those two reports kind of saying that it's just putting them out there because, they did it last year, and it never hurts to just get them a couple days of camp reps. But it still sort of seems like the plan would be Juice Scruggs and Seth McLaughlin at center, and that does allow you then to have all four of your other guys, whoever ends up winning the left guard job, you would then have those four guys set. And then come week 4 or week 5, or if it's after the bye, then you're just upgrading your center position by putting Cade Mays in, and you don't have to do this musical chairs where then, 3 other guys get, Ben Barch, who maybe would play at right guard, gets taken out, and then Tate gets moved back to right guard, and then you get a new center back in and whatever. So I do like this. That was kind of my fear of it. It's like, if Cade Mays is going to be out the whole season or half the season or longer, then I can buy into the fact that I do think playing Tate at center gives you a chance to quote unquote play your best guys, because I do think Ben Barch and whoever, if it's Mahogany and Ben Barch at guard and then Tate at center, that's in theory, those are 5 better players than if it's like McLaughlin or Juice Scruggs at center. But with only it being 3 or 4 games or whatever, it just seems like a lot of moving around pieces in a position where they talk so much about how important it is to have cohesion and the guys that you're playing next to. And even I was thinking with Blake Miller starting at right tackle, it can't be super ideal if through the first 5 games of his career he's got 2 different guards playing next to him, because we want to play Tate at center, so someone else, Ben Barch is playing next to him, and then in game 5 Tate moves back to him. You're almost starting at 0 from a communication and familiarity standpoint a little bit. So I do like if hopefully Juice Scruggs, or I think that's what it'll be. I was reading a piece on Justin Rogers today, and he still made it seem like he felt pretty confident Seth McLaughlin is like the last option right now in terms of even like maybe Tate ahead of them, but that Juice Scruggs would be the starter. So we'll see. That's going to be an interesting. It's kind of unfortunate that Juice Scruggs has kind of just been right on the cusp of being 100%, but just not quite. So, I guess maybe that could be a good thing with McLaughlin getting the amount of reps that he has over the last week. But hopefully we can see Juice Scruggs in there, maybe start against the Commanders.
Yeah, it's interesting because they say Juice Scruggs is going to be getting snaps today. We heard Tate Ratledge got snaps yesterday. I don't know, man. Like Ben Barch is not going to practice today, so Ben Barch will be participating in today's practice, or Ben Barch will. It's worded weird, but I think what they're trying to do, in my opinion, if we're going to be completely honest with it, is yes, they tried Tate Ratledge at center yesterday. Whatever. This is the time to try people at different positions to see if they can handle it. I believe Juice Scruggs will be the guy to eventually start at center for the Lions. Depending on what they do with Seth McLaughlin, like do they leave him on the roster? Do they not leave him on the roster? Because just being completely honest with you, when I'm playing franchise for the Lions in Madden, you don't really want to keep 3 centers, and you potentially have 3 centers on the roster. I don't think Seth McLaughlin's going to get picked up by anybody in practice squad, and that's kind of what they're going to have to worry about.
He might.
He might, but
it's such a tough position to get any sort of competent guy. I don't know how people thought. I think there was mixed reviews on how he played. I think the only issue with him, from what I've read, is he's pretty small, especially compared to how the Lions have played with Ragnow and then Cade Mays this year. Now he's really athletic and he can get into the second level, which the Lions like in their center. So that's kind of the intriguing part of his game. But yeah, it'll be interesting. And by the way, I think Ben Barch will not practice today.
Okay, I was getting confused on that because there was one person that says he will be participating, and then one said I was like, whatever. I don't even know what the hell it's going.
You might have already read this exact quote, but it might have Dan Campbell might have said it on the clip that you played, but he'll be good to go is what he said in reference to Jameson Williams. So that overall, I think that might be the number one thing going into the day. I wanted to know is how is Jameson Williams. So, I think that's pretty good news. One other report, Dan Campbell says Drew Scruggs will be capped on snaps again today, but he will get some. And then, which means Seth McLaughlin is back in the mix after obviously Tate Ratledge took the snaps the other day. So the center position, man, I wish we just had Cade Mays healthy and we could just be seeing how he looks out there in game action with the Lions. But that's might be the number one thing to be watching really for the rest of training camp. You
know what I read off that though? The capped on snaps again. My read into that is obviously Drew Scruggs is coming back off an injury, and they're not trying to get him re-injured.
Which could be what they're doing with Ben Barch too, because he's kind of been slowly worked back, and now this might just be kind of like a scheduled maintenance day or whatever. I don't know. Who knows, right? But
I mean, they're playing it safe with some of these guys. I imagine if JAMO had to go play today, he would play. Okay. I imagine if Nick Whiteside had to play, they would play. Maybe not Whiteside with soft tissue injury, but I just feel like, like with the wording on it says he'll be capped on snaps again today. Yeah, I think they're just kind of like saying, okay, you got 20 snaps that you're gonna do. That's it. That's all. And then we're gonna move on to Seth and see if he could do it and kind of just get it all into a conjunction. I mean, like Tate Ratledge took snaps yesterday. Cool. You might as well just try it out to see if he's any better. You know what I'm saying? And then obviously, I don't want to lose that like Tate Ratledge next to Blake Miller. Kind of, I don't want to do musical chairs in the interior. So I imagine they just did it out of kind of necessity because they're missing.
I think so too. Just because you're fresh off a game where McLaughlin played a ton, and then Juice Scruggs isn't 100%, and you still need to do a practice, and you do kind of have some overflow of guard depth because Ben Barch was practicing yesterday, so he could play at right or left guard. And then they moved Mahogany to right guard. So I think it made sense throughout the course of a camp day. And you might as well keep them at least, even if it's just like 1 or 2 days a year in camp where he gets some reps, because that's a position that it's almost like a unicorn type position. So just in case of a total emergency, if at least it's someone that you're not just throwing out there and he's never repped at center with the team like he has now had over the course of 2 years, even if it's only 3 or 4 days worth, or I think it's even more than that because I think last year he did like a week or something. But at least it's not completely foreign to him at such an important position.
Yeah, I just thought that they did it out of necessity. I really didn't think that they were like saying, "Oh, we're gonna," because if you look at Seth McLaughlin, he played 59% of snaps, if I am reading this correctly. Miles Frazier played 100%, which is crazy. But it just he's Michael Neese is there too. He takes center too. They say Mason Miller could do it, but come on, you got to keep the guys on your roster. So I'm just interested to see what they could do at the center. I didn't think anything of it. When Tate Ratledge took snaps yesterday, my first thought was, you're coming off a preseason game where the weather was terrible. And, James got in a little bit of heat on social media about his take about the weather and about dome stadiums, which really fires up a certain amount of people.
And I admittedly said I'm a soft football fan.
Especially the boomers. The boomers are like, oh, my God, you got to play football outside. And I'm like, no, we really don't need to play football outside. I mean, yes, it's cool.
Ideally, if you could just guaranteed me it'd be all beautiful days and then I'd be all for it. But the game the other day was a prime example because the preseason's all about evaluation. And really, you couldn't even take anything from that game because guys were fumbling the ball without anyone even touching them. It was so slippery. So it's that part where, and I get it, it's kind of just old school football where it's just, okay, take this, all we need to worry about is being tougher than the other guy. But that's honestly not why I like the skill and all that element of the game where people can showcase their talent. And you can't really do that when the weather is the star of the game. So but yeah, I mean, I get it. It's football. It is still kind of a game meant to be played outside, even though, hey, the dome teams, it's different. And I think with the Lions specifically, that narrative's kind of funny because they are a team that is built to run the ball. Obviously, they didn't do it as well as they wanted to last year, but they're a team that still can play well in those elements. And yet you still get the people with Jared Goff saying that he can't be good outside, even though his stats actually are pretty decent in cold weather games over the last few years.
Yeah, I think it's funny because when you put that out, I was like, oh, it's not. But
I knew I was getting myself into, so it's all good.
It's funny because even I think it was the old Dolphins owner right before Stephen Ross bought the team. He was like, if there's one thing that you could do over, what would you do? And he said, huh. He thought about it for a minute, and then he said, I put a effing dome on the stadium. And the reason why was because in Miami it could rain 1 minute and then it doesn't rain 1 minute. And so he was like, I was sick of that's why they put the Stephen Ross put the awning over it to kind of like
Right.
shield it. He's like, I'd put a dome on that thing. That way I could
Mhm.
use it all year long, get all the money for it. That's basically what it is. But in terms of that game set Thursday, which was Thursday, looking at some of the snap counts, like I don't my Pro Football Focus somehow didn't go through. So I had to clawed it. But Anthony Lucas played 71% of snaps, and if I'm getting it correctly, he only had 2 tackles. So guy plays the most and didn't get much. But I was intrigued by the special teams snap counts because I think that's how you win it yourself on the roster. Nick Whiteside 12 special team snaps, Thomas Harper 12, Eric Hunter 12, Keith Abney 13. And this is on the defensive side. Lauren Strickland, who just got cut with
An injury.
he had 11. Even Ahmad Hassaneen had 9. So there you go. And then you had guys like Jackson Meeks, and on the offense side, I think the one was perplexing was Zach Horton had 13, and Malik Cunningham at 8. So do with it what you will, but I don't know, man. I looked at this kick return. We were talking about the kick return for the Detroit Lions, like especially like since that's something I was watching, and I mean, Raheem Blackshear looked pretty good, but there was nothing that like jumped off the page. I think Dortch will eventually just take that role over for good, but I don't know. What would you see with that, like in terms of the kick return and the punt return? I really
Yeah.
didn't see. I really didn't see anybody that really jumped off the page. I mean, Greg Dortch had 1 for 8 yards, but whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's one that, and they talked about this at one point in the broadcast. I think it was when the Lions were about to receive a punt, where they said basically Dave Phipp doesn't want to show. He's not going to show like anything here because why would he try to block a punt when you could save that for the regular season?
Right,
I
right.
almost feel like some of these are like, is it even worth playing some of these guys? Because is there a risk of injury element? I don't even know, but I just struggle to how serious to take some of it. But I am someone that probably has talked more about the kick return than most people have. So
I asked you,
yeah, I mean, I actually, and I talked about at the beginning of the show, I was surprised at how I thought Jacob Saylors looked. I mean, I thought both as a running back and on the returns, he looked way better than he did last year. Now, I still would agree with you that I think Greg Dortch was signed, I think, specifically to be both the punt returner and one of the kick returners. And then, as you just mentioned too, in your last statement, that with special teams on this team being such a big factor, that if Tom Kennedy is someone that is going to be on the game day roster, I think he could be the second kick returner. But if he's someone that's going to get beat out for the 5th wide receiver job and only play 2 or 3 games when people get injured, then that could completely change what they do at that position on kick return. So those are the kind of things in preseason that are interesting, because one guy making it or not could impact a totally different position. So I think Greg Dortch is the guy that I think they want to lean on at kick return this year. And then it could be, a guy that earns a job on special teams that makes their way as the second kickoff guy. I'm not sure, but that is a position that, with how the NFL has turned the kick returns, that a lot of these teams can get way better field position. And last year, it just seemed to be anytime the Lions returned it, it was like we'd get to like the 25, and which was, you're not really gaining anything. So that's going to be it's a key underrated part of the game now.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about it because like I was going through it and I was like nothing really stood out to me. I think this whole Cincinnati game, nothing really stood out to me in terms of like, oh, this is different. Like it's preseason football, we know that, but there's like nothing like Jacob Saylors, maybe. I mean, these were the top in terms of their position group, Saylors, Hassaneen, and Rod.
Hassaneen, I think, was the star of the show. I mean, I think right here, right now, he's got to be considered the fourth edge behind Hutchinson, Wanham, and Derek Moore, because going into camp, I think Peyton Turner was in that spot, but he's been hurt the entire time, and that was his knock. So it's almost like a Marcus Davenport type situation. So he definitely is not, doing himself any favors. And then after that, it's kind of the undrafted free agent type guys where you mentioned Anthony Lucas played a ton, didn't, at least on, the stats, didn't do anything. I don't know how the coaches feel he played, but Hassaneen certainly had an incredible performance. And I just think that's someone, and he was playing on special teams. The fact that he had 9 reps there on special teams is also pretty impressive for a bigger guy. So,
Yep.
I mean, he looked to have his motor is second to none, which I think at that position is more important than to have that trait than any other position. The fact that he's just completely relentless, I think it seems to carve out a role for him. And he seemed to have some pretty good, them moving him to this different position, I think just kind of better suits him. And he was able to get her. Yeah, the big end spot. He was able to both get around the edge and then also go on the his first sack. He kind of snuck in the inside and got upfield really fast and sacked Joe Burrow. And then he, after he showed that, he was able to, even though the knock is he doesn't have like great bend, and so you wouldn't think he can really get around the edge that great, but then he does and gets a strip sack. So that's a guy that if he's the fourth edge on your team, I think he looks like, I almost want to call him like he's a lock right now to be the fourth edge. I think that's maybe still premature with still 2 preseason games to go, but he had to be the MVP of the game, I think, just in terms of how much he helped his stock. And then I think Skylar Gil Howard too was pretty up there. I mean, I just don't see with what he showed athletically and you drafted him in the 6th round. So, I mean, there is some sort of roster attachment element to that where you used a 6th round pick on him. Are you really going to not have him be a part of your team? But, and then one other guy I'll mention too, just because there was a couple articles written about him. There's a couple questions asked to Dan Campbell about him this week, was Chris Smith, the defensive tackle. And that's a position that drew a lot of eyebrow raising when the Lions didn't bring back Roy Lopez, and then obviously DJ Reader didn't come back. And there was a lot of talk about, well, what are they going to do with kind of a bigger interior player to complement kind of the true nose tackle. And I guess I didn't realize that Chris Smith has, since joining the team in 2023, which he came from Notre Dame, he has only been with the Lions his entire career. Now, a lot of that has been on the practice squad. He did make actually the initial roster last season going into week 1, which was even more notable because the Lions only took 50 guys because, as you mentioned earlier, Brad Holmes kind of notoriously at this point takes like 1 or 2 guys from roster cuts and adds them to the team. Thomas Harper would be a recent example of that among a couple other guys. But yeah, Chris Smith, I think, is someone that Dan Campbell praised as a really smart guy, knows exactly what he's supposed to be doing out there, has a high level of an IQ, and kind of just does a thankless job pretty well. Kind of the DJ Reader type role where it's not a guy that, people will be like, oh, he didn't have any sacks. It's like, that's not really what he's supposed to do. So Dan Campbell even brought up an example where he noticed the Lions only had 10 guys on the field and one of them was supposed to be next to him. So he kind of spread out his stance, so he was more evenly distributed on the line, so there wasn't like a huge gap there. And then he took on like a double team and did pretty well. Actually, it was a triple team because there was a one less guy out there, and he did pretty well. So, I mean, that's a guy that's actually kind of quietly been around now for 3 or 4 years, and in a position where they kind of didn't have much depth there as they seemingly transitioned to more of a different look where they're not really having that type of player. They have guys that are just kind of attacking more, but Chris Smith could be someone that fills that kind of niche role on the team.
And to further your point, because there's another guy who I put as the most to prove, right? I thought he would be playing this week, but he didn't because Campbell says the Lions have been ramping up Onwuzurike, but there is a setback.
Yeah, I saw this. This was a weird post. He had a setback, but then he's still good. Because read that. So what did that say?
It says Campbell says the Lions have been ramping up Onwuzurike, but there was a setback. He does expect him to be out there today. I really don't know what that means, but
dude, Levi's just actually, I saw I was gonna bring this up. I think it was like 2 days ago. Dan Campbell was talking about Levi, and he said Levi's had a really good camp to this point. And I don't know his exact quote, but it was something almost exactly like this, where it's like, man, like that guy, he's had every injury in the book. Like that guy, man, like he was literally like, that guy's he's injured. He's had so many injuries. Like it was something like that. And he also said, it's with Levi, it's great that he's got both ACLs now. It was just like he was being genuine and like complimenting the guy, but it was just like, this guy is just basically been beat to absolute hell to this point. And that's why I think, like I brought up Chris, like I said right there, is, you kind of complimented that point with Chris Smith. Like that position, I hope Levi, I don't even know, that's just kind of like a classic Levi tweets. Like I don't even know what to make of that. It's like he had a setback, but he's like still gonna be out there. It's like I don't know. I kind of throw my hands up at seeing that report, but I hope he's out there because I think he can. Even if he just gives us what he gave us in 2024, like that would be a productive role for the defensive line.
When I read that tweet, I was like, that is a Levi Onwuzurike tweet if I've ever seen one.
It's setback, like, so now everyone's frustrated. Everyone's just gonna pile on him now.
He's faced another setback. I don't know how many setbacks you can have. I really don't.
Especially off what I said, that quote about him.
But the stock up, stock down. I think you hit on three that I was gonna hit on in terms of stock up. Was like Skylar Gil Howard is one of them. That play he made on Josh Johnson was athletic. That was athletic.
Yeah,
that was athletic, man. And
I love pressure where like it looked like he went up the middle like 100 miles an hour. It looked like it was like JAMO like running through the middle.
He's a really, like I said before, I think if he wasn't injured last year with Texas Tech, he would have been a second round pick or a third round pick. But because of the injuries, he fell to the 6th round where he was drafted. I think Skylar Gil
basically a complete unknown because, like you said, the injury, and then the rest of his career before that, he was playing on a MAC team. So
yes, so you really didn't know what you're getting. I mean, it's the same thing that like Nadeem Tucker for Western Michigan.
Yeah.
Like I can guarantee you, if that kid was wearing a Buckeye helmet or a Michigan helmet, like he wouldn't have fell that far. And I'll even go a step further. I think if you had Keith Abney and he wasn't Arizona State,
he's looking like a steal.
I don't think he'd be a 5th round pick. I think that kid would be probably 2nd, 3rd, maybe even 1st. Like if he went to the right school, like that's what you get sometimes with these young players. Like, I remember a long time ago there was a guy named Jeff Okuda, who was Ohio State corner, and everyone loved him because he was on a good Ohio State team. And then he came to the NFL and he didn't play the part. And I always tell people, you can't really judge these players by the helmets they wear. You got to judge them by what they do. And I thought Terrion Arnold would be pretty good, and I thought Ennis Rakestraw would be pretty good because I watched him in college. But man, it's the same thing with that. That was their bugaboo. Well, Terrion's a little bit different. We'll leave that. We'll leave that be. But I guess Rakestraw, I mean, it's the same thing that has been hurting him his whole college career was, injuries. Can't stay healthy, can't stay on the field. Like when he does stay on the field, he's pretty good. When he can't stay on the field, he's pretty awful. And so, I mean, I was impressed by the secondary, if we're going to be honest. I was impressed by Abney. I was impressed by McCreary. I was impressed by Hassaneen and Gil Howard. Like those were 4 players that I was impressed with. And then, the players I wasn't really impressed with, if I'm going to be completely honest, like I can go, there's a couple more players I was impressed with, like Eric Hunter. I thought he played pretty well. He had 4 solo tackles, like pretty damn good. Skylar Gil Howard had 2 quarterback hits. I mean, I think the guys that like I wasn't really happy about was probably the offense in terms of like I wasn't really happy with Robichaud. I wasn't really happy with. I mean, I know people are baking on him, but I know he's playing some different positions and everything. Isaac Tesla, I think he played really good, and I think he'll get back to it. But there were some guys on the offense, like Miles Frazier for a little bit looked like he was playing bad, and I was really impressed with what you said earlier with Blake Miller. I thought Blake Miller played fantastic for just game 1. He looked like he was ready to play.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on a lot of defensive guys there. I mean, on the offense and then on the O-line, yeah, I agree. I think Blake Miller, there's a lot to build off there. I mean, seeing him get upfield like he did into the second level is really encouraging because that can be something that he's in the top percentile at. That's not just a baked-in skill set with a huge tackle. Thought he looked really good doing that. He seemed to have some really good like he didn't seem stiff at all. He seemed really in a good center of gravity and able to, move from side to side really well. He wasn't just like hunched over. And then, yeah, with Miles Frazier was a little bit of a mixed bag for me because he did get a couple penalties, and there were a couple times where he just, it didn't look like he had great technique, but at the same time, he played every snap and he like can kind of just move from position to position. And that's like really kind of unheard of. The fact that he can go from like tackle to guard and then, the other, basically all 4 except center. So I think there could just be some built-in, growing pains with that. That's kind of a tall task, but if you have someone that, is able to have that flexibility, I think that's pretty valuable. And then also a pretty mixed bag was Christian Mahogany, who I thought at the start of it was a complete disaster at the beginning of the game. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm like Mr. Criticized Christian Mahogany guy. And I'm like, man, like, I don't think he looks good. Cade Mays is already out. Like I was kind of panicking. But then he like, pretty much every good run the Lions had was because Christian Mahogany like mauled his guy and like carved a really big hole. So this just seems to be the kind of player he is right now, where he actually does seem to be a pretty good, maybe even a strong run blocker, but his pass game, it just isn't really good right now. Or it's at least inconsistent. And Dan Campbell talked about that this week, where I think he referred to it as like anchoring when in pass protection. I think he even used the term inconsistent. So, his pass pro is still concerning to me, and especially with the center out to start the season, I still worry about that. But in terms of getting back to an identity running the ball, once they get Cade Mays back, I feel like they could, the interior, which was a complete sore spot last year, if they can get off to a decent start this season with Ratledge, continuing on his trajectory, and whoever wins the left guard spot can, build themselves into the season, and then we get Cade Mays back, I feel like the run game could really get going because, that is a strength of Christian Mahogany right now.
Yeah, that's I got him. I got another Levi Onwuzurike quote. Okay, this
Oh, man.
this is amazing.
Oh, no.
Tell me what you think of this. So Al
Okay.
Carson, which is I love Al Carson. He has some great shit.
Great, elite follow. Great Lions.
He's probably one of the best follows on online, sort of, bar none. And he said, I asked Dan Campbell about Levi Onwuzurike because he's doing the presser for Pride of Detroit. He says he had a ramp up plan, started to hit good numbers, and then had a little setback, but we'll be out there today. So tell me how you think about this last part. He says going back on to 2 years ago, he's strong, physical man. When he does it right, plays low and feels good, he could wreak havoc in there. We all know that. He says he's doing a good job in there. He's mixing up. It's about trying to keep his body on the up and up right now.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he's been commenting on his injuries in his body a lot recently.
I'm waiting for the day that Dan Campbell comes to the podium. He's like, yeah, we got Levi on a walker. He's gonna use a walker now.
I don't know. We don't want that day to come. We're gonna win a Super Bowl this year, and then he's gonna have 2 sacks in the game, and then he's gonna be like, you know what? I've had like 80 different injuries already. I'm retiring out a Super Bowl champion. That's what's gonna happen. Or hey, maybe he'll finally get healthy again. But I just kind of worry about those guys at this point, because like that guy's had so many concerning injuries too. Like his back has been super jacked up. Like that's something that typically you don't. Honestly, the fact that he even had a good season in 2024 is kind of shocking, because from all accounts his career was like over. So I don't know. He's kind of almost like an X factor to me this year, where if he actually plays and let's just say we get 10 plus games out of him, then that could be pretty good for our defensive line. I mean, he's just a depth piece that can actually be out there, because he's someone a little bit like Marcus Davenport, to where when, the like 5 games with the Lions that Marcus Davenport was healthy and feeling good, he kind of was like a wrecking ball out there. Now the other 90% of the time he was hurt, or kind of like the back end of last year with Marcus Davenport, he wasn't hurt, but I feel like he almost was like, he just didn't want to like miss games, but I don't think he could have been that healthy, because he was a complete non-factor. But yeah, the Levi thing is, I don't know. You asked me what to make of it. Like, I really don't know. I hope he can just play like more than half the season. That's just kind of where I'm at with him. Like, I can't really expect him to. I can't go into the season being like, yeah, he's going to be a huge part of things. But if we get 10 plus games out of him, I think he'd probably be pretty productive in that role.
It's the greatest mystery in Detroit Lions land, especially with Levi Onwuzurike. I was like, I gotta float this by James, because this quote right here is just amazing. So we move on to players like who has the most to prove. Commanders come to town. Obviously, you talk about players with the most to prove. I mean, like, look, we got 2 more games left, and then the cut down date's right there. So I think anybody who has, I think Hassaneen's made a huge case for the 4th defensive end position. I think what you said about Chris Smith and then Skylar Gil Howard, I think they're making impressions on the coaching staff. Clearly, when Nick Whiteside gets a nickname and then he says he's always making plays. I said this on the YouTube, James, but I went back and I listened to a couple of press conferences that Dan Campbell would say, yeah, you just can't ignore him out there. And those 3 players were, I'll let you know, St. Brown, Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez. Those are 3 players that he did that to. And I think Nick Whiteside is the next guy that could potentially be the guy that he hypes up a little bit. And he said he wasn't going to hype up anybody, but we hit training camp, and Nick Whiteside does look pretty good.
He's kind of been hyping up guys, honestly, but nothing crazy. But yeah, no, I think you talked about some of the roster crunch and the positions. I think linebacker going into the rest of the training camp is pretty interesting, because they have a lot of guys, and you mentioned Devin White, who I think I undersold maybe a little bit when we first got him. I was thinking like Devin White, I don't know. Like he kind of has a lot of these like missed tackle rates and some stuff that typically wouldn't be a good trait here, but he seems to have been almost like one of the bigger stories of this entire camp. And I mean, I almost think he's in a running for a starting type position. Now, it's still a little bit of a mystery how exactly the Lions are going to use their linebackers and how many are they, how much of the three linebacker base defense do they play? But at least in the right here and the right now, he seems like he's a really real factor in terms of the team. And then they have a lot of these other guys, the like Joe Bocce's, the Readers, the
Nowoski.
Nowoski, Damone Clark. Now you have Jimmy Rolder, who is at least back at practice. But they have a lot of these linebackers who I think are almost like special teams players, but are also fighting for a role. And not all, you can't keep all of them. So which one can, really separate themselves as someone that can fill a role on the defense? And because we already know some of these guys are good special teams players. So whoever can, fill a role on the defense could be the separator. So I think there's quite a lot of competition really on defense, because I came away from that first game thinking, defensively on the edge, Hassaneen took a huge step to kind of be that next guy after the first three. There were a lot of good performances, as we talked about, in the secondary. But for me, linebacker, there's just so much competition because there's a lot of guys that have played in the NFL and played kind of like Grant Stewart last year. Like they had a special teams role, they had a defensive role, and they've played a lot of snaps in the NFL. And we kind of have a handful of those guys. So I'm interested to see who keeps separating themselves within that group.
Yeah, Jacob Saylors is back at camp. He's back in practice. And then the other person is Onwuzurike is back at practice too. So there you go. I think that's kind of what people really wanted to know.
He might be high up my list. He might be number one. If he is out there outside, maybe not for this coming game, because it's, at least in the Dan Campbell era, it's kind of a incredibly rare preseason game where you could see a ton of starters out there. So, a lot of those guys would be the people you're going to be watching. But I do want to see Baki out there and at running back, because, that's someone that could easily be the third running back on this team, but he just really hasn't been out there. So, I will say on him, and I posted about this throughout the summer, I still think there is a pretty massive misconception with Vaki's health, to the point where it might be like one of the bigger misconceptions, or I don't know what you want to call it, but just he's only missed 5 games, I think, total in his first 2 years here. So, what's that, like 2.5 games a year? That's not, obviously you'd want him to miss none, but like 2 games a year isn't like anything insane. And he grades out as like a clear elite special teams player. So I think he definitely has value to this team, but and it's been covered, I think, pretty well too by a number of people. But Justin Rogers has pointed this out. There shouldn't have been this big expectation at this point that Vaki got these big touches at running back. Like, he was not going to get any touches, essentially, with David Montgomery still being on the team. So now was the point where he was going to be able to showcase what he could do as a running back. And unfortunately has had, he breaks his nose on kind of a freak injury. But he is someone I really want to see at running back to see what he can offer. Because if right now, I think the leader in that third string is Jacob Saylors. So that's not, some guy that just is locked in. So, I'd be interesting to see if he can finally get a consistent run there.
Yeah, I'm interested because when we get to the end of preseason, I wonder if they're going to make a considerable march to get a third running back. And the reason I say that is I know they like Onwuzurike. I know they like Jacob Saylors. I know they like, some of these guys. Robichaud, I mean, he's out. Raheem Blackshear, I really don't count as a guy who's going to be, someone that you're going to hand the ball off to. He's kind of your gadget guy. But I look at some of these guys that are still available. Like we just signed Travion Williams. That hasn't been official yet, but they signed him. I guess the Commanders had
Craig Reynolds just
Craig
signed
Reynolds,
today, which makes me, it goes back to my point with what I was talking to you about when Jahmyr Gibbs was still holding out. It was like, I almost feel like the Lions just like don't care at all now about running back because they have they're just saying, okay, Jahmyr Gibbs we just made him the highest paid running back in the NFL. We're even with what he's shown us his first years in the NFL, we're now going to drastically increase his workload. So why are we going to really put much worry about who's the backup running back? Like, yes, obviously it's that age-old argument of like, well, if this guy gets hurt, then they're screwed. It's like, yes, you could pretty much say that about any position in the league. If the great star player goes out, then yes, it's a severe drop-off. But who's going to be? It's not like even if Isaiah. I think they think Isaiah Pacheco is going to be ready for the regular season, and that's going to be the backup. But it's not like he's going to be out there, touching the ball a zillion times a game. It's going to be like 5 to 7 times a game, and it might even be like they want him to use him more as a pass blocker as key thing as opposed to let's get Isaiah Pacheco the ball a lot. So I don't know. I'm interested to see how that whole thing works out. And I've also brought up a couple times, and you just brought it up right now about bringing someone else in because that's not something you should have to give up much to acquire someone even in a trade. So maybe it's something where we have Jahmyr Gibbs and Pacheco and we're good, and if someone gets injured, then we might have to trade for someone more significant than just a Baki or a Saylors, who basically both those guys have zero experience being NFL running backs. But as long as Jahmyr Gibbs stays healthy, I really don't see backup running back really being worth talking about that much this season. But I could be wrong.
I think there's a couple names that will interest Detroit in terms of what they can bring to the Detroit offense. Because if you look at Pacheco, like he's like your Thunder,
I can't wait to see that guy actually run for us. He just runs so funny. Like it's going to be hilarious actually seeing him run for the Lions in a game.
Just what if I told you we could bring in an Antonio Gibson, an Austin Eckler, someone that would.
Eckler's like 90 and is.
Yeah, I get that, but it's not like he's going to be expecting high snaps. He's just going to be coming here to come make plays a little bit and then, go to the sideline. Like I think if we're talking about like a third running back, like you kind of want someone who is multifaceted that can catch the ball out of the backfield. Maybe when Jahmyr comes off, you have a set package for him. Like I could see Antonio Gibson being that guy. I could see, a guy like they got the Ernest Johnson still on there. He'd be interesting. They bring back Jamal Williams. I'd laugh my ass off. But they signed Travion Williams. It hasn't been official. This team hasn't even announced it as official, but it's been like the thing that's happening. I think they're going to search for that running back market pretty well. Especially
if one were on cut down day, some team that has like a deep running back room in terms of whatever, they take one that they think is a fit.
Yeah, that could be the case. I think that I don't know what Pacheco is going to be, man. That's a problem. Like I know it's not their biggest thing, but like you want to get Jahmyr Gibbs off the field sometimes, and the whole thunder lightning thing. I mean, if you were to look at someone
there's no thunder and lightning now. It's just lightning.
Nah, yeah. that they're going to put Pacheco out there at some point.
He will. No, he'll be out there, but he'll be whatever 8-7 touches a game, and he'll be running his feet a zillion miles an hour like the Tasmanian devil, and hopefully he does good. If not, they'll trade a 6th round pick for some backup running back or some starting running back on a terrible team that is going nowhere, and they might as well just get something out of him.
That's true. Yeah, I just that's something I've been wondering about that. And if Jacob Saylors continues the way he's playing, fine, but even then, like Warren Sharp, I know Warren Sharp. He does Sharp's football. He still puts the Lions running back room. He's not a big fan of Pacheco either at number 2. So
Speaking
we're in a
of
good
guys we
spot.
just brought up, actually, Al Karsten, very notable, not Isaiah Pacheco guy. Might be the most Isaiah Pacheco guy I know on this earth. Really doesn't think he was a good fit here and has nothing but negative things to say about Isaiah Pacheco, which, hey, mad respect because, as we have talked about a number of times, people that are just like incredibly negative about everything and incredibly positive about everything don't necessarily bring a lot to the table. So Al is a big Lions fan. He brings a lot of great information, but he also, he'll say how he feels. And that guy does not like Isaiah Pacheco at all.
I'm not a big fan of Pacheco either, to be honest. I don't know if he'll be a real good fit for us, but well, we will see. But there is news for our first opponent of the season. Saints rookie Jordan Tyson, who has been a standout during training camp, is expected to be out roughly 2 months with his hamstring injury. So we will be missing Jordan Tyson.
He was their first round pick, right?
Yeah, he was there. Yeah,
okay.
He's going to be good.
He looked incredible from the clips I was seeing of him.
I'm excited about that because, well, I'm not excited he got hurt, but I'm excited that we get to miss him because I think he could be a real pain in the ass if just by the clips and just by what people are saying at Saints camp, like they were saying, like, damn, he might be better than Olave, and I'm like, oh, geez, Pete's like, but he's gonna be out.
That could be a pretty big time duo if he pans out. I forgot about Olave because he's already a stud.
Olave is a monster, but yeah, Jordan Tyson's gonna be good, and Tyler Shuck, he seemed like he could be good last year, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I think anything that we have to say about the Commanders game, I think it depends on how much the starters really play. To be honest, that's the way I look at it.
It's going to be pretty interesting. I mean, the last preseason game that I went into with any sort of excitement for was the 2023 preseason home game, and Jahmyr Gibbs played in that game. That was his first game. Brian Branch had a huge, massive tackle at the line of scrimmage. So to see some of the starters out there and Drew Petzing, again, he's not going to be – there's no play call he's going to be doing. Actually, I thought it was interesting. Dan Campbell gave some good insight into preseason play calling where there's just times where he just tells Drew Petzing, like, hey, we want to see this guy with the ball, so just give it to him, or we want to see how things look when you run behind this offensive lineman, so let's run a run play to the left. So, more so to the fans of that, complain about stuff like that. Literally, a lot of the play calling is just trying to get looks for guys.
It's vanilla as hell, too.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. So, but just to have the starting offense out there in some capacity will be pretty interesting because we haven't seen that in the preseason under Dan Campbell. I
don't know if I think it was Aaron Glenn. He said one preseason game he went out there with a Madden playbook. Did you hear about that?
No, I don't. I forgot about it if I did.
He did it because he was like whatever, dude. He goes, I'm not showing him my defense at all, so I'm just gonna do this. And he took the playbook from Madden that they had for Detroit.
That's hilarious.
And he used a couple of the plays. I was like, all right. I mean, that's cool. I mean, that's all right. I mean, I've heard of people doing that before. I heard what was it? A couple years ago when we played the Chiefs in the preseason, Andy Reid used a playbook that wasn't his playbook. It wasn't an NFL playbook. It wasn't even a college playbook. It was a high school playbook.
I think I heard that. I heard that story. Yeah.
He was trying to get the fun back.
Their offense kind of is a high school offense with they do some kind of gimmicky misdirection type stuff, but it's really good. I mean, it's one of the best play callers in the NFL.
whatever he does, I think it's whatever. It's fine. But yeah, preseason is just something that you just kind of like you watch the players, but you don't watch like the whole thing, and it's not really something you really can take out of. I mean, we've talked for about an hour and 15 minutes about a lot of stuff, and it's like we're not even focused on the game, to be honest. We're focused on more on the players, and we'll see what happens at the end of this week. I think this week will be kind of like I think it'll set the tone for who's going to make the roster, to be honest. That's the way I look at it. So, I mean, if you see a guy, and Derek Moore should be coming back, so we might get to see him. So that'll be good. And then I think you're right. I think Hassaneen is putting in that fourth defensive end role, but I know Tyler Lacey is going to somehow make this team, and just the way Campbell loves him.
I think he will. Yeah, I think he will.
So it is interesting. It's going to be interesting what happens on Saturday, and James will be going to that season ticket holder, thing.
Yeah, I might make the team because they're having.
Make sure you sign that damn waiver, man.
Yeah, if I go on here and I'm dotting up passes and making catches and kicking field goals, they're gonna send a note to Brad. It's gonna get passed up the chain, and they're gonna find out, and I might make the team. So I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
James is a new Chris Hogan.
Yeah, I could, or someone. So we have some crazy athletic season ticket holder that we're unaware of, and he runs like a 4.2 40. And
oh my god, could you imagine?
That'd be hilarious.
Could you imagine?
It'd be like Invincible, that movie with
a Disney movie. Yeah, it would be a Disney movie. Yeah. It's always funny. You put that tweet out there about signing the waiver to go on the field. It always makes me
incredible. I've only been on the Ford Field turf. Maybe a handful of times, but not many.
I've been on there twice.
Yeah,
and it's pretty sweet. And the turf is unlike any turf that you're gonna be on, at all. So, and people don't understand, like, if you start running and you don't stretch or anything, like, you can tear your hammy. You will end up like DJ Reed, and you will not be able to go to stem cell therapy and wherever he got his new hamstring. So it's always fun to do that. But I think this week's gonna be interesting, James. I really do. And when I do my YouTube video about the game preview, I don't know if I'm gonna do it this week because it's preseason football, but I'll do the who. I'll key you in, and we'll try to figure out a time where we can record it, so we could do that and send out for the people. But yeah, that's it. I think that's we talked enough. For sure. I'm gonna try and see if there's any updates from Lions practice at the moment. No practice. So there you go. I think this is it.
The first tweet I see here is Lions injury updates. Good news for Jameson Williams. That's the article I see. So we want to see.
I think it's just the shoulder, and I guess he's out in practice and everything. So
he'll be good to go.
And if you're a Red Wings fan, and you're watching the podcast, Bob Duff of Detroit Hockey Now says that the expectation is Dylan Larkin will attend camp and play for the Red Wings this season. Management hopes that the removal.
Are you serious,
dude? This is told you.
Is that a real? Do you know who that guy? You're the hockey guy. Is that a real report?
Oh, Bob Duff he's legit.
And he said Dylan Larkin's going to be on the team.
Yeah, management hopes that the removal of Yzerman will help ease tensions. So, look, I know people are upset with Brad Holmes, but we have a whole different situation with the Red Wings. And if you're a Red Wings fan, you can follow Red Alert and see me go berserk about the whole chaos at LCA report. But, man.
Oh, my gosh.
I'll tell you what, man.
Wow, I didn't expect to see that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, but I was watching this one more thing before we go. I was watching the Keith Abney tape. There was someone who was circling around Twitter. He looks really good. I'm impressed by him. That's why I said
it was an impressive debut for sure for him.
I'm hoping that he could turn it on this week and do it again. And if he could do it again, I think we're in a good spot. So
he was getting first team reps in practice. So
today.
either I think it was 2 days or whenever yesterday.
Oh, yesterday, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what he does. I'm intrigued, man. I think this cornerback room is going to be a lot better than people think. I did a video on it yesterday, so people could go watch it. I think this room that we thought was going to be terrible. I think if you're going to add the pass rush synergy into the cornerback room, I think this could be the best cornerback room that they've had in a while because of the. I think I really do think McCreary could be an underrated steal, to be honest. So. We'll see what happens. Obviously, the Commanders are going to come into Detroit Saturday. Then they got one more preseason game in Indianapolis. I think cut down dates the next day. So it's going to be interesting the next couple weeks, especially as we get closer to cut down day. And I think it'll be on a Sunday. So Monday we'll be able to roll right into the cut down. So stay to Detroit Lions News Podcast. So you can go to YouTube and you can check it out there. As always, look, we're gonna keep you entertained. Obviously, this is preseason. It's such a weird time because everything that you think you're gonna say or you want to say, there's nothing really you could say. We were, Dan Campbell is doing his press conference today and basically saying, it is what it is. Yeah, I see. Abney did. Keith Abney did take first team reps at practice per a couple players. So.
Nice.
All right, cool. All right, we'll see you guys in the next podcast. I'm more Detroit Lions football here on the Detroit Lions News Podcast. As always, go to social medias. You can find us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get podcasts, and YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube page. We're going to get that. We've been doing some good content on there. We're getting up and up, so just subscribe so we get up to 1,000 subscribers, and we'll keep you entertained throughout football season, that's for sure. And
Yes,
we'll see
sir.
you guys in the next podcast as we talk more Detroit Lions football, and we'll see you next time.